What's going on, people? It's Mr. Do Daily back again, standing in for Mr. Dore, who, after another defeat, has dragged me out of the cupboard to review the Bournemouth game. Of course, we're all a little bit disappointed, but the show must go on. So, whilst Dore's got work commitments, you've got me again. Apologies before I start. Try my best, but I'm sure we've got plenty to discuss with the lads and get through. Before all that, of course, there's some housekeeping to go through. Do subscribe to DoreOnTour. He's trying to get to that 7,000, and I'm sure with your help, he'll get there before the end of this prolonged season, at least. So not far for him to go. He's absolutely smashing it at the minute. He's killing it, and he's fitting it all in as well. So many shows to catch up on. And of course, he does have to go to work like the rest of us, so he works really hard at this. It's definitely worth subscribing to. If you want to make a donation, become a member, like myself, like Glenn. I'm not sure whether Lee does it or not, but if you want to make a donation, be a member. For me personally, $2.99 a month. I get a lot out of doing this and doing the things I do with Dore, so I think it's more than worthwhile. And of course, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm Mr. Do Daily, as these guys call me these days. So if you could give that a follow as well, that would be fantastic. I was going to say thankfully, but I'm not sure that's the case. Dore's helped me massively in the last week achieve a target of hitting 500 subscribers. However, there was a forfeit or a punishment for hitting 500 targets. I'll be going to Hull in a full Forest kit. You know what they're called, FKWs. So I'll be away to Hull with the guys the day after my 42nd birthday, looking like a 4-year-old. Lee has tried his best to get me there. He's done his bit as well. So I'm going to go particularly hard on him. But no, seriously, thanks for all the support. It's just a light-hearted YouTube channel, a vlog. If you check out yesterday's, you'll see exactly how light-hearted it is. I had a few beers after the football, and I'm just trying to relate everything I do during the day into feeling good and positive about what we do. So it's not mental health, it's not running, it's a bit of everything I do, walking, running. It's just something to check in on my personal vlog and the ups and downs of living a normal life, I guess. So check that out. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say then. No further ado, let's introduce the guests. We've got Glenn and we've got Lee. Glenn, how are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. Strangely, over the day since sort of rewatching bits of it and seeing lots on Twitter and Facebook and others, I was really disappointed at the end of the game, and then this wave of pride has come over me over the last sort of 18, 20 hours or so, culminating really in how fantastic it is that we're seeing tweets from Forest fans who are saying they're picking up their second leg tickets already, and Forest are in the playoffs. So there is light in shade, I know, and there is disappointment and frustration, and no doubt we'll talk about the things that are causing the most frustration from last night. But I've been left with this enormous sense of pride from what the team has done and the journey they've gone on, and what we hope is just a blip. We've had blips from Liverpool and Luton, haven't we, in recent months? So hopefully this is the start of another winning streak, and we'll go through May unbeaten and have a really successful end to the month.
Absolutely, Glenn. Just a few comments before we get on to Lee. Paul says, so proud of the boys. Got pride back in our club. Just sort of going over what Glenn said. Adam says, gutted about the result, but still proud of the boys. Josh says, so proud of the boys. It wasn't our night. We're still hurt. We're going to Wembley. Come on, you Reds. I think that's the sentiment at the minute, isn't it, Lee? That's how we're all feeling to some extent.
Bar the odd one, it seems to be the general consensus, doesn't it? And I'm the same. I'm gutted, I'm annoyed, I'm angry, I'm every emotion near enough you can think of. But one thing I'm not is angry at the team. They've done everything. And for me, you could see it in the second half. They were flat. It wasn't like the first half. I just think the run of games that we have had. It finally caught up with them yesterday. I mean, how often do we play long ball? Don't get me wrong, when we've got Davies on, we hit it over the top. Every so often, and he holds it up. It was like every ball we played near enough was long ball yesterday. We wasn't ourselves, and I'm not frustrated with them. Obviously, you know if you've looked at my Twitter or anything else, what I'm frustrated at.
So I think what Lee's sort of alluding to, and we are going to talk about it probably at length, is the referee. Chapo says there we should have killed the game on first half. Stuart Hartwell penalty didn't help, but onwards we all go about the playoffs now, making them count. Like I say, the referee is probably going to come into it. Just a comment here from a certain David Johnson. See you on Saturday, Des. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. I tried to be the sensible one here, but I'm going to look like an idiot.
Enjoy it, have a laugh for me.
You managed to get some socks.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of photos with Dore and that bloody camera. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. Saturday's another day. Just 42 days and the rest. Cheers, Patch.
It's harsh.
There you go. I thought I looked quite good for 42, but there you go. Ash says the boys will be up for the playoffs. Cooper will make sure of that. Space says gutted about last night, but so proud of the team. We're still right in it, so let's beat all and go on to the playoffs. Come on, you Reds. Master Stacker said, shit refs, where do we find a decent one? Got plenty to say about that one. So Conman says, so proud of our boys, playoffs are on the horizon. So a few comments there, guys. Getting back to the game, I'm going to sort of say a few words what I thought. I thought Forest played okay in the first half, created the better chances, without being particularly on top. I think the better chances fell our way, the big decision, of course. And then the second half, we just lost our way a little bit, didn't we? One of those performances when we just drop our standards a little bit. There was one or two reasons for that. Of course, Yates and Cook was carrying knocks, and I just felt it just wasn't to be on the night, was it? What we can't forget is Bournemouth are a good side. They're in second and they've been there all season for a reason, and I've mentioned it on DoreOnTour. Some of the results that they picked up, they're not bad in the grand scheme of things. And now it's proven that, hasn't it? It's kept them in there, these last minute goals and coming back from 3-0 down at Swansea. Whilst we thought we was on the promotion charge, if you're in second and you come back from 3 goals down, you're going to think it's our year as well. So, Glenn, sort of on the back of what I said there, didn't go too deep into things. What were your thoughts on the match itself last night?
Yeah, really not too overly concerned at half time, actually. Like you said, we had the better of the chances. Surridge, first and obvious opportunity to score. I think it was almost a like-for-like situation than Swansea, wasn't it? With the exception of his position was very similar. I think the angle of the ball was slightly towards the edge of the 6-yard box, rather than midway towards the penalty area. And that angle and the speed of the ball just meant that he was always chasing it and almost had to play it on his left foot. There was a lot of, not criticism, but there was lots of comments at half-time about his ability to strike a ball. We talked about this, Des, haven't we, about opening his body and playing that beautiful ball over for his second goal on Saturday. And the fact that he probably could have done that if it wasn't for the pace of the ball. And he had to take that first touch with his left foot before he struck it. Obviously, the penalty issue was another that we will go into, no doubt. But we came out. I think we came off first half very, very much in the game. Scott Parker talked at length at the end of the game about what they were saying at half time. I don't think Steve Cooper said too much about what was said at half time in terms of Forest, but they came out very, very much more anxious and nothing seemed to stick. I think that Brennan and others were having lots of issues with repeated fouls that weren't being picked up and just stinted the progression. We didn't put two passes together in certain stages of the game. I think there was one point where we had two touches in their penalty area midway through the second half, which just didn't show the flair and the ability that we've had most of the last sort of 12, 15 games, to the point where it looked like we didn't really turn up for the second half. And the goal was really cruel. I think it was a real sucker punch and a gut punch at a time where we then didn't really have that much time to make any decisions. I've heard lots of criticism of why they didn't make any other changes. So we've been used to making changes about 60 minutes, haven't we? And they've been very, very few. And they then made 3 with about 7 minutes to go. In the end, it had 15 minutes left. I think they had a little bit too much to do, and they just didn't get enough of the ball to put up an opportunity to score. So the second half was the difference. You know, we lost to a team that's arguably the second best resourced Championship team ever, Fulham being the first. And they're just going to yo-yo. If they're going to continue to yo-yo between the Premier League and the Championship, it's going to make it more and more difficult for teams like us to even compete with that, particularly, and no doubt we'll talk about that as well, the handicap that we had at the first 21 points, of which we got 1. And automatically we're then starting on the back foot.
Of course, yeah, of course. So before I get on to you, Lee, there's just a comment here, and bearing this in mind, 9 games in the last month with more or less the same team is far too much football. Changes needed for Hull. What are your thoughts on the game? And of course, that comment suggests that we played a lot of games in that time, which we have. And again, it might just be a case of a few players carrying knocks, feeling a little bit jaded, and just didn't quite happen on the night.
For me, I think it's a lot of things, isn't it? It's all the games we've played. It's the knocks, as you say. I mean, you've just got to hold your hands up and say what a professional Steve Cook is. I don't know if everyone knows. I'm not going to go into it too much. It's not my place. But what he went through before kickoff, and then to play as immense as he did, you know, you've just got to say, what a guy, you know, what a professional. And
I think it's worth talking
about. Fair play to him, you know.
I think it's worth talking about, but we'll definitely come to it later when we look at players. But yeah, the way the game panned out, what she sort of.
Well, second half we were flat, and I don't think it was a lack of effort. I just think they stepped it up a little bit. Nothing seemed to stick for us. We didn't really get decisions. I mean, even Yates was rugby tackling, weren't he, in the corner, just to try and get something. We didn't get anything. I felt sorry for Jono because he was being manhandled every time. They were wrapping their arms around him. And, you know, blatant corners, goal kick. Oh, cheers, ref. Lino stood right there and nothing. How can you play when you're getting next to no decisions or free kicks going your way when they're so blatant? I mean, there were times where we barely touched them. Like, what was it? The midfielder, was it Cook, their midfielder? Yeah. Ran past one of our players, went another 3 or 4 yards, then dropped to the floor and they got a free kick for it. Yeah, they got a clash of feet or, you know, on his heels and stuff about 5 yards earlier, but it's just disappointing, isn't it? You don't mind losing to a better side, do you? You know, they were the better side. Over the game, they were the better side. First off, we was on top. Yeah, they had possession. We created the chances and could have been 1 or 2 up, depending on the decisions, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But you want a fair game, don't you? So it's fair for both teams. And I know I could sound like I'm moaning, but it just wasn't. And it's not the first time, Des, is it? If you have a look back on these podcasts, I've said it so many times, when a ref's going to be held accountable for the decisions they make, because they just seem to be able to go, oh, sorry, and then nothing happens. That game potentially has cost us 200 million. And what bothers me even more about that, Des, is the financial stability of the club. And that's why I want to go up. I'm not bothered if we come back down, to be honest with you. I just want us to not have to sell our players that we produce. I just want the club to be financially stable. And that's what bothers me the most. And this is why I'm so annoyed and been annoyed all day.
All right, we'll definitely come back to it, Lee, because I've got plenty to say as well. Yeah. So I think when you look at the game as a whole, of course, we've all said about the first half and the way we could have scored. Sam had that chance, didn't he? You know, and you'd expect him to tuck that away. Do you know what we've been seeing? I'm surprised he went with it on his left foot rather than his right, like Glenn said. And then at the end of the first half, we're already at that point, aren't we, Lee? Do you know, the penalty. The penalty. And I'll tell you, I've been on Twitter all day. I spent all my time coming back from Bournemouth arguing with people about referees. And I tell you why I've got a problem before we go to you guys is when that ball got played through, it was quite obvious, sat in the stand, almost level with it, almost level with play, that he was onside. He ran through, which would have took 2-3 seconds. And then what I saw was the referee, and I've heard that there's been a transcript of what's been said as well, which I'll explain. But I looked at the referee, Stuart Atwell, and he was looking at the linesman. For me, I didn't know that they were talking to each other, but it was almost as if he were looking at him to say, make my decision for me, make my decision for me. Because there was such a delay in what he did. It took 2 or 3 seconds for him to break through. He would have had time to put the flag up before he even got fouled. It was not offside anyway, which you could see in the stands. Sometimes you get it wrong and you think, well, I was wrong, but it was quite blatantly onside. And then you've got a referee taking another couple of seconds. That's fine, buying time. But there's been a transcript now where the linesman said, I think it's offside. And the referee says, well, put your flag up then. You can't think it's offside. It's offside or it's not. Yeah. And that's where my big problem comes in. That's why I think, and I've been accused of everything today, that's where I think Stuart Atwell's bottled it. He's absolutely bottled the decision. Because if the linesman thinks it's offside, he should have the flag up. If there's any doubt whatsoever, don't we go with
the benefit of the doubt?
Don't we give the striker the benefit of the doubt? And I think the reason Atwell's bottled it is because he probably thinks if he's got a decision to make, it's not just a penalty. It might be a red card. I'm not saying it would be. It was a little bit wide of the goal. But, again, he's got a massive decision to make. And my real issue is that part of it. I've been told, people have come back at me and said, you said he's a cheat, you said he's corrupt. I don't think it's personal to Forest. I've been moaning all season about referees. And there was the Merseyside derby where Gordon got pulled over. You know, they didn't even take it to VAR. So VAR is not helping either. So for me, and I'm on my soapbox now, the referees have got to be accountable. You mentioned the money there, Lee. You mentioned how big this is. And until somebody, like people have been saying to me all day, we move on, we get over it. But that's the problem, isn't it? We do move on. As football fans, we move on very quickly to the next situation. Yes, I'll get over Forest and losing, and because I'm not a sore loser. You know, I can deal with that side of it. What I can't accept is that referee is going to go and make the same mistake again, or he's going to impact a game, or all the other referees are going to make similar mistakes because no one's saying to them, why didn't you do your job? It's as simple as that for me. So I've said my piece. I'm going to pass over. If anyone's got any comments, of course, drop that in. I'll try and read through as many as I can. I did forget to say, if you enjoy the episode, give it a thumbs up, of course, and subscribe to get Door up to 7,000. But Glenn, after what I said, what's your issues with the referee?
There's numerous, isn't there? And it's nuanced with it. Why was a Premier League referee assigned to this? I believe a change of decision, that they weren't originally the referees. Why was the decision made, as you said, so late? Why was it made between two when I think, but I occasionally referee football games and I occasionally umpire cricket matches, and if in doubt, not out. So that works for this. If you're not sure, it's not offside. I don't know where the discussion is coming from. I know there was another player in front of the ball at that point, but that's not acceptable as an excuse to think that might be the player that's then the one that is offside, because I think it was Garner or Yates, nothing to do with it and wasn't involved in it, and it shouldn't have been that. Surridge was 2 yards onside. He then was fouled in the penalty area by very clearly clipping his shins by the keeper. No brainer. The thing that, as you said, Des, I think the decision has been taken between the two of them, and they've both looked it up, in that they've both gone, we're relying usually on the crowd, on a crutch of a VAR decision or something in our ear that might then help us make the decision correctly if we don't. And this is a really critical decision that we're going to make. So the easiest decision would be to, like you said, Des, bottle it and make no decision at all. The fact that he's gone and pulled Cooper into the office at the end and apologised.
It's almost even worse, isn't it? It's just like
you're just rubbing salt into the wounds doing that. I don't know where that comes from. Yes, I think Cooper was right when he said that it was him trying to, sweeten him up a little bit, and that he appreciated the fact that they did that rather than it being coming through the report that comes back, no doubt, from the EFL. And I know the Forest would make an equally a comment in that report as well. But it's not acceptable at that level. And if Premier League referees and officials, they shouldn't be making those errors. If they're being put in that position to make those decisions because of the severity and how critical that fixture is and the result of that fixture, they've got to be better. They've got to be held accountable, and they've just got to make the right decision when they do. And they can't be doing bottling. That's shocking and seriously unprofessional for a professional referee and official.
But it wasn't just that decision as well, was it? That's the big one. That's the most critical one. But Brennan Johnson was getting fouled every single time. And what sort of irks away at me, and again, it's not just a Forest problem. I think a lot of the time it's referees favouring the home team and the environment they're in. We've had some decisions go our way. So in the sort of to try and balance it up and in fairness to the situation, we've had some as well. But it was when you've got a player like Brennan Johnson who's getting talked about all the time, he's obviously quicker than most players in the Championship, and they've got their arms around his waist, and you take each incident on an isolated case, each foul, you probably go, well, he's given one against Brennan. But when it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 fouls, however many it is, over a game.
3 fouls in 10 seconds just before he blew up. I've never seen Brennan react like that.
And they basically acted like he dived on every single one, which was shocking, considering the guys like that holding him.
Exactly, and that's a frustration. So, Lee, Mr. Marinakis has contacted Radio Nottingham. He contacted Colin Fray, of course, who commentates on the games for the BBC, and he spoke about how he didn't want to be interviewed, Colin Fray said, but he wanted to make his comments known, and Colin Fray could pass them on through the media, that he feels that Forest have been really, really hard done by. And, of course, it sounds a little bit like sour grapes on our pot, but when you look...
It's not the first... Apparently, Des, he's wrote letters, and it's not the first time. It's
exactly.
This is the whole course of the season, so...
This is what I'm going to say, and how many penalties should Brennan Johnson have had? He's got a reputation because referees, again, aren't big enough and bold enough to make a decision. QPR, I think he got fouled 3 times in the first half.
His feet are too quick for him. In turn, he gets brought down. And then they say, oh, no penalty, he's diving. And this is the problem. He's actually it's because he's too quick for him. So they think, oh, he's diving. But someone posted today that 11 penalties this season. I don't know the number. It's not my stat. It's just what I saw. Now, if you add that up and you think of the course of the games that them penalties was in, the majority of them, I would say, would have been a win as opposed to a draw. I can remember QPR, for example. I think we drew in 1-1, and we should have had a blatant penalty at their ground. I think it was
at least 2, Lee. At least 2.
Yeah, and it's just these points that are accumulated. Even the offside decisions, like at Luton, these points that we're actually losing, which we shouldn't be, would have carried us over the line anyway.
Yeah.
Without that game last night. So it's just this is where my frustration is. Like in terms of the offside that wasn't offside. I had a guy arguing with me today. I was saying, well, the refs up with play. You can see it clearly, and he's like, "Oh, that's what he's got a linesman for." The linesman said it was offside. The ref couldn't see anything. I'm like, well, if he can't see anything, he's meant to be up with play. Surely that's his job. And he was just arguing with me for ages, and it was just, I was getting frustrated with it. But if you guys can see it in the stands, which is a point I've made, surely a ref who's 5 yards away can see whether he's on or offside. I've played at a decent level, and you can see when a player's offside or onside.
Well, in this situation, I was kind of in line with the referee and the line of play. So the referee was in a great position to make that decision himself. Almost bypassed, because by the time you got the flag up, Surridge is running through to the goalkeeper. It might not have even been up then. It might not have even been fouled. So it's that frustration. And like I say, in trying to sort of balance up, we got one go for us, the West Brom game where someone got involved. And I think Glenn hit a real solid point there about Stuart Atwell and Premier League referees coming back down into the Championship. If a Championship referee is not good enough for an end-of-season game, why is he good enough for the first game of the season? Why is he good enough at all? What Glenn said, Stuart Atwell can rely on somebody to tell him he's wrong in the Premier League. If he chalks that off or doesn't give a penalty, somebody can say you made the wrong decision there, and he can go. And I think we're in danger of VAR almost taking over to that extent and making every single decision. What we have to remember is, VAR was brought in for clear and obvious errors. That's an obvious error because somebody's been fouled in a penalty scenario. So they would have checked that. But these referees, they're almost using it again to whatever the crowd want to do.
If we're having a Premiership ref, then VAR should have been included as well.
Hey?
I said, if we're having a Premiership ref, they should have VAR, because clearly they can't manage the game on their own, can they? And, it's just frustrating for me, because it's decisions like that change your season. Everything you've worked for, all the money the fans have paid, Marinakis has put in, it just it almost destroys everything, and it's not on, really. It frustrates me.
But going back to my original point of how are these people going to be accountable? Because until somebody is made, like in anything in life, until you make an example and show what happens if you don't do your job properly, they're never going to do the job properly, because they'll just move on. He'll go back to the Premier League and have all the assistance he needs. And that's not the way it should be, is it? I don't get me wrong. I'm not. You guys know I'm quite a positive person and look for the good in things, but you've still got to be accountable. It's a word I use a lot.
The problem is, Des, when you hold someone in that position accountable for the job they do, people are going to be scared to be referees, aren't they? At the fear that, I make a genuine mistake, because it's picking the blatant mistakes from a genuine mistake, and this is where where do you draw the line? Obviously, yesterday's was blatant, but you're going to get people scared to be referees. But I agree, they should be accountable, because it's destroying seasons, isn't it?
All right, guys. So we've done quite a bit on referees, and I think if we allowed ourselves, we could take this one throughout the night. But a couple of comments to get through. Atwell apologised after the game. Yeah. I think that emoji sums it up for most of us. Read him. Shane says easily onside, not even close. Concurs with what we've all said. Comment here from Chapo. Premiership refs, Joe. We always get refs. We always get these refs. Sure, like people saying Championship just don't want us to leave the league.
That's how I feel.
I'm not so sure it's a conspiracy against Forest, and as much as I'd like to think so, and it has cost us, I think, because of individual ability, because of the situations we find ourselves in, it's cost us more than most. But again, I don't want to sort of always be the victim, because I just think the standard is abysmal from the outset. Here's one, the resident Derby fan. In Boston.
She's not wrong, though, is she, on this?
Well, I tell you what, one of Atwell's very first games was the Lee Camp Saves It game, where, what's his name? Was it Miles Addison? Scored a header. and nobody touched him. And the game just went crazy for about 5 minutes. He worked in our favour then, so he probably hasn't got it all in for Forest. He's just a ref. But anyway, there's some guy here. There's some guy piped up. I'm not quite sure who he is. DoreOnTour, get back to work. Hit the likes, people. Subscribe to Do Daily and DoreOnTour. Yeah, subscribe as much as you want now. Now you've got me to 500. So Ash says, have you got your shinnies ready for Saturday? No, I tell you what, on this, I haven't got my shinnies ready because I no longer own them. I probably did till about the last few years, till I realised I was a grown-up. But I tell you what I do need, I'm wearing the famous third strip. I've got the shirt, I've got the shorts, I've bought the shorts today. 3 sizes too big, but it's all they had in the club shop. But I'm struggling for the socks. If anybody can help me out with socks for the third strip, you know, the yellow and orange one, really, really struggling to get hold of some. So if you can help me out in that sense, and there's a comment here on that as well. I think people are loving this, aren't they? I'm going to get battered, aren't I? James says, full kit means full kit, by the way, Des. I'm expecting boots restored, maybe some Steve Cook-inspired Vaseline blob on your head.
Love it.
And that kind of leads me to the next thing I want to sort of talk about. We look at the game and individual performances. We mentioned earlier that in the second half, the players did look a bit jaded. They might have been carrying a few knocks. But again, as ever, there was still some outstanding performances, some real sort of heroic efforts. You know, the defence held out for so long. Bournemouth were a good side. You know, we can't take nothing away. The right winger for me was particularly tricky and did a good job. Philip Billing is kind of an athlete. He's hard to mark. He plays in that pocket. Watched him have a good game against Forest sometimes. But before we move on to other things and what's coming next, Glenn, who was your standout performers and what man of the match? I guess we'll get in early with this one today.
Man of the match for Forest.
Yeah.
I could be anyone. Cook, I think I'm going to go with purely the fact that he was playing with a head injury for the first 45 minutes and stitches and Vaseline and God knows what else, glue on his head, and obviously what had happened in the stands before. I hear that, you know, that the staff at Bournemouth were less than supportive of fans trying to raise that as well. So that even made it worse, no doubt, for the family. I'd like to think that he wouldn't know too much about that before the game. I've no idea how he played, presumably knowing what had happened to his father in the stands before. He played extremely well, and really was. I think, we were talking earlier. A couple of mates of mine earlier on in the day yesterday, and the advantage of being a former Bournemouth player, that you know a lot of the current players and you know what they're able to do and what they're not. And I don't think he put a foot wrong yesterday. Missed one or two through the midfield, but in terms of preventing them from shooting, I think he was solid there. Going forward, obviously Brennan and Jed and Zink, that lovely ball through from Zingernagel just before Surridge was fouled was just lovely. But as a standout performance, it's Steve Cook for me. He was immense.
Okay, before we get on to you, Lee, just a couple of comments about the referee. They're still flooding in. I think he flagged because Brennan, but he wasn't interfering. Bad decision all round. I see that point, and I wondered whether it was because of that. But I tend to think, having now know they had a conversation, I don't think it was. Gamer says the bigger teams or home teams get the calls. The challengers never do. He bottled it big time. Mr. Marinakis is after him too. Forest Till I Die says spot on Des, the ref is a bottler. Ash says that the owner has sent numerous letters this season about the poor officiating. Colin Frey says they've been ignored. I don't really think they're going to get anywhere. And someone with an agenda against the EFL said, F the EFL. I don't know what her problem is, but anyway. So, man of the match, Lee, who stood out for you last night before I say mine?
My man of the match again is same as what Glenn said. I'm going to echo that. It is Cook, but I want to give a mention to Samba because I thought he was brilliant. You know, his distribution, he even started the odd attack, didn't he? Because we didn't have a lot, did we, basically, especially the second half. And, you know, I just thought he made some good saves, catching corners and things like that. I thought he played really well. He kept the defence calm as well as Cook did. And, yeah, generally he did well. And I was hoping he was going to score right in the last minute, you know, because at the end of the day, had we had scored earlier on, we'd have still took a point and it would have been going to the end of, like, the last game, wouldn't it? So that's another reason why I was disappointed. But, yeah, Samba, I thought he had a great game yesterday. He couldn't do much about Kiefer Moore. We always have a problem with Kiefer Moore, don't we? But there you go. We did well. We did well.
Well, I think Steve Cook was, all things considered, you know, he was outstanding. He made some crunching tackles. I wasn't aware at the game of what he'd done to his head. You know, I know he'd taken a knock and things like that. So I came out the game saying, Steve Cook, you know, I used the word before, heroic effort. And it definitely was, wasn't it? What happened, you know, and like yourself, Lee, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but apparently his dad suffered a cardiac arrest. Well, he put it out there himself, so it definitely happened. I'm not sure whether he knew about that whilst he were playing or not, but regardless, he played through that game with a head injury, you know, and all that sort of pressure of going back to Bournemouth. And you could see it meant something. There was one point he came up to the Forest fans and it kind of sent a shiver down my spine. He went, come on, and he was getting us going, and I thought it's not the kind of emotion you'd normally see a player do. They try and play it low key these days and not upset anyone, but he was right in the heart of the game and really giving it his all. But what the next thing I kind of want to go onto is the goal, and you mentioned Kiefer Moore, and again it ties in with the fact that this game originally got called off. Another one of Mr. Marinakis' issues. It originally got called off 10 weeks ago, and Bournemouth had 7 players missing. It was always going to be the case that the score of the winning goal was going to be one of those that was missing, you know, and probably Kiefer Moore because he seems to always score against Forest. So what's your thoughts on that, Glenn? You know, again, it's another one where it made us angry at the time. Some of us went down there and put a lot of effort into it, and it took a lot of effort getting back for me as well that weekend. But it's frustrating, isn't it? Because again, they've almost dictated when we play that game.
Yeah, I think that one of the points that Marinakis was saying is that the decision that EFL made and the fact that there was very little involvement between Forest and the fortune that then fell on Bournemouth as a result of it. And it was typical. You're absolutely right. I heard Des talking to the fella from Bournemouth that Kiefer Moore always scores against us, and it was written, wasn't it, that he was going to be involved in some way in some shot on target. It just happened that it was at a set piece that really wasn't a pre-planned thing. I think between the two of them, they just had a look and saw the gap and took advantage of it. I think Zinkernagel was the only one out of that far side that ended up spinning around and got caught out. And I don't know whether Samba could have done a bit better down there on the left-hand side. I'm not sure, but it just, yeah, like I said earlier, it was just a bit of a sucker punch to. It happened at the right time for them, 8-10 minutes into the, before the end of the game. It just wasn't the right end to it. It was just such a lame goal that was actually, had we scored it, we'd have been talking about it from the beginning of the chat, no doubt about how amazing it was. They played well. They were the better team second half, and they deserved to win. It should have been a better goal to secure it. I wouldn't mind too badly if it was, if it was some Colback or Spence-esque shot from outside the penalty area. Just some lame free kick that they thought of at the time.
Apparently, he shouldn't have been there. Apparently, it was meant to have been sent off against Swansea. He should have been sent off. And they obviously have been banned. Again, that didn't happen, did it? But that's what I've been told. He was supposed to have been sent off. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Swansea City fan there saying Forest were unlucky.
He might be able to tell us about should Kiefer Moore been sent off. Callum,
he probably would say so because didn't Kiefer Moore come from Cardiff?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the game, and I kind of wanted to wrap that up to some degree because there's lots of comments. There's so many comments coming in. There's 115 people watching. Please hit that thumbs up. Please make my efforts filling in for Mr. Dore worthwhile. You know, I never get this amount of views on my own YouTube channel. So please subscribe to Do Daily, and of course, if you're not subscribed to Dore, get him up to 2,000. Keep these comments coming in. There's so many to try and keep up with it. It's incredible. It was a big game, wasn't it? It's a big time for Forest. Lots of the guys are starting to ask the question about playoffs. Of course, that's next. Glenn, are you confident we can still do it?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think we're in the driving seat as long as we match, because we're 18 goals better than Huddersfield, right, with equal points. So as long as we match their result, we will be at home on the return leg, the second leg, probably against a Middlesbrough or Luton or Millwall if they get there, but arguably Millwall are the ones which are having to rely on other teams losing and them then getting in. And although they've got a better goal difference on the teams above them, they've still got a little bit more to play for, and against Bournemouth as well, remember. So I think we've talked on here for hours and hours over the last 9 months, talking about how we just want to survive, how we and I clipped actually, Lee, your comments while we were talking about this. You know, never mind playoffs, let's go second. And I laughed at it. And I'm really sorry that I laughed at it because it was on for so long. But we've now got to put ourselves in a position. And I think the quote that Cooper said earlier on, it's disappointing, but whether we like it or not, we have to get on with it. And that Lombardian ethic of, you know, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get back up again. That's the thing that the players have to do. And no doubt they're going to be disappointed. No doubt they're going to hear in the back of their from others saying the decisions that the ref made, and they're going to be frustrated. But to get on with Hull, and no doubt we'll talk later about who will be facing Hull. I don't think many of the players that played last night.
That kind of leads me on to just a comment here. A Bournemouth fan, a humble one. There didn't seem too many of them at the stadium last night. But guys, all the very best for the playoffs. Hope you come up with us. You're a good bunch. Thanks for that.
I think it's third and fourth get home on the second leg, I believe. And I want Luton, to be honest. I want Luton. But Glenn, just something that we should keep in mind is it was a setback, but the comeback is always greater than the setback. So if we keep that in mind and we go for it, we can do it.
Well, my point on that, you know, I've been asked the question for various things I do. You know, of course, I do stuff for other channels and things like that. And I've been asked the question a few times today, are you confident? And that's why I've asked you guys. But the reason I'm really, really confident is because whenever Forest have been on a miraculous run, you know, the amount of wins we've accrued is phenomenal. 4, 5, 6 games on the spin, and sometimes that worries me a little bit when you do get a defeat, because you're so used to winning and you panic then thinking, oh God, is this the end of it? And each time we've been there, each time we've got a defeat, we've just gone on another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game winning run, and the lads just prove that they can deal with a setback. You know, I think there's a strength for character now where when it doesn't go to plan, you know, and occasionally when Forest have played a little bit like they did yesterday, it reminded me of Cardiff. That was a bit of a shocker. They seemed to lose their heads a little bit. I don't mean that in terms of lose their heads, but kind of like things just didn't happen in the way they've been doing it all season. The application just went a little bit, I guess, because they were trying to force the issue. And it was almost at Cardiff when we conceded a goal. But after that, when they've had a chance to come back, Cooper does his work in the changing room, in the week. It feels like they come back sort of with renewed vigour and really go hard again. Earlier in the season, we had the FA Cup games to almost, I've said this on Door before, we've had the FA Cup games to give us that free hit to get back into form, but they've been against real big opposition. And I think the fact we're going into the playoffs, having played those games as well, so not only can we bounce back, we can bounce back against quality opposition and in big games. And that's what we're going to have to do now. The playoffs are going to hit us, and we've got to sort of take the bull by the horns, I think. And the fourth positive with all of that is we've got the best team. So that is the reason I'm telling people today that I'm really confident Forest is still going to do this. We had it once under Cooper, back-to-back defeats, and in the second one, which was when we played Middlesbrough and Huddersfield, we had about 876 shots. And I know you still have to win the game, but at least we were doing the right things and playing ourselves back into form. So that's the reason I'm extremely confident. But before all of that, we've got the game on Saturday. It's one I was particularly looking forward to before last night's result and before the FKW thing. So it's taken a slight gloss off it now. It's my birthday weekend, as I mentioned, so it was going to be a massive celebration, promotion. Forest were going to give me the best present ever. But we've still got a game to play, and I think it's important to touch on how we approach this. Do we rest players? Do we try a few youngsters, or what? What's your thoughts, Glenn?
Yeah, I think that would be wise based on how leggy and how tired some of the players looked last night. I think it's only sensible to make some changes. It wouldn't surprise me if Samba is rested, although just to give another opportunity for Horvath to play. Wouldn't surprise me if Larea started. It wouldn't surprise me if if Lolly had a run out, and maybe even a Davis for half an hour if he's fit, actually.
Well, sorry to interrupt, Ben, but someone there has just posed that question. Will Davis be fit?
So I believe he's been light training, and I believe he travelled with the team last night. So with a bit of luck, he will be featuring. And I'd like to think that he would make an impact. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? What would have last night's second half been with Davis involved in that? I think about this in terms of McKenna and Liverpool, actually, but I'm not going to go back that far. Yeah. I think there's a number of changes that they can make. I think this is a situation where there's the best opportunity for them to do that at a really critical time. Hull, who's above Hull, because they're playing Huddersfield, aren't they? So that the time for us to make these changes, you could argue equally that they don't want to start making massive changes at this point, and they'll keep it as it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if they tinker a little bit and they rest Yates. I hope his shoulder isn't too badly injured. And I would equally, I don't know. I would take this opportunity though, I think, to rest some players that by the Friday the 13th or Saturday the 14th. We'll have a good 10 days of rest before that really critical semi-final and final, we hope. So who knows? What do you think, Lee?
Before I offer my opinion, Lee, what's your thoughts on Saturday's game?
I'm the same. For me, I would start with squad players that have been there or thereabouts. People like Larea, for example. I'd be throwing them in, giving them a run. Maybe some under 23s. I'd rest the mainstay, because then we can be fresh, can't we? We know we're in the playoffs. regardless what happens in the whole game, we're in the playoffs. Third or fourth, I suppose it comes down to who we would rather play. You know what I mean? For me, Adam, if we finish fourth, it means I can go to the home game. If we finish third, it's a Monday, I've got to try and get someone to cover me. So I'd rather...
It's a totally irrational reason you want us to rest play.
No, I'm just saying I'd rather
we
relax, let them rest, and let's go full throttle. Let's get Davis back. Let's have him in there, because I think if we've got Davis, hopefully Graben, I'm not sure on Graben, but if we've got those kind of players back, I can't really see anyone stopping us in the playoffs. There's two things that I would worry me slightly. Huddersfield, because they're kind of a weird, unpredictable side, even though we know we can beat them. And then there's Borough. And if they take Spence, obviously Larea's going to have to play at right back. So, but I want Hull, because Luton, because I think we'll smash them. I think we'll batter them over 2 legs. And I think that's nothing short of what they deserve after how we got cheated. And I think final, that is on the day, isn't it?
I just cut you off there, Lee, because we'll come back to that as well about the playoffs. Just a couple of comments. Again, there's over 100 people in. If you've got anything to say, please drop it in the comments. Please like the episode and, of course, subscribe if you're new to DoreOnTour. There's just a few things in here which I think sort of back up some of those points. Vespine says you should give some of the young players a run out against Hull like Larson. Martin is shouted a good call. Well, Des, you will have a full kit on.
Give Des a run out.
So I might be playing up front on Saturday. If or in midfield, I'm probably not as fit as Ryan Yates, but and then this I've kind of left this one till now because this is something that I kind of agree with. Michael says we need to get last night's game out of the system and go into the playoffs with a win. Don't make too many changes. And that's kind of my stance on it. What I would do personally, if Cook and Yates in particular are carrying knocks, rest them, you know, take them out the squad completely, give them a week off. But, you know, I'm a firm believer that if you're winning football matches, the reason Forest have been on this run is because And the reason I feel we've got so many wins and become stronger is because we've had the same team, essentially. Yes, as the season's gone on, particularly towards the end, Graben's got injured, Davis got injured, next man up and all that. But essentially, it's the same team, you know, apart from 1 or 2 positional changes when there's an injury. So for me, I'm a firm believer that if you're winning football matches, it builds confidence, it breeds it. You look at the Germans and the Brazilian teams, you know, that have won World Cups, when they've been playing San Marino or, you know, Vietnam or whoever they play their first full-strength teams. They win 10-0, they win 15-0 if they have to. Because, again, football's about winning, isn't it? And I think it's important for Forest to bear that in mind. You know, I'll understand if they don't put a full-strength team out. You know, it's been a tough period as well. Someone mentioned before about 9 games in this month, in April. And that's a lot to ask at the end of the season. I think that's why 1 or 2 of the players are breaking down. So I'd understand it if they rest, but my thoughts is these guys know what winning's like. They know how to win football matches. And again, just to put, if it takes it, to put the Bournemouth game behind them, you know, beat them convincingly. What we did against Swansea at the weekend was phenomenal. You know, one of the best second halves I've ever seen in reality. We really took them to the cleaners. I think something like that against poor Hull side, I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover, but taking that kind of confidence on again might just be what we need to completely get it out of the system. So that's my thoughts on it. Couple more here. Billy Davis put a fringe team out in our remaining games and it backfired in the playoffs. We finished 3rd then too. Again, that's kind of what I'm getting to. Someone says Lyle can't play for us again until next season.
That was a comment about Lyle Swan or Dale Taylor. I think they may have got them mixed up. Lyle Taylor's unable to play now because he's at Birmingham, isn't he? So he can't play beyond the end of the season.
You'd have to recall him back before the final game. I don't think they're going to do that.
No.
It's interesting because I've been for lunch out in a country pub when I got home today, and I saw Lyle Taylor. Just quirkily, I didn't speak to him. I didn't fanboy him.
Yeah, I spoke to him last night.
I've done enough of that over the last 7 days. So, but yeah, I just saw him back locally. The Bournemouth fans back reckon you will beat Hull, regardless of making changes. I think Sheffield United will drop out and Middlesbrough will come in too. And there was a reason for putting that there, because for me, the fear is when we're going into these playoffs is the only thing I don't want, and again, it comes down to team selection and new players, that I don't want to play Middlesbrough, because I believe we lose so much if Spence can't play from what's the word, from a system that works for us. It's common knowledge now that Forest use that right hand side to a massive strength. As the season's gone on, not only has Johnson got further up the pitch, Spencer's getting further up the pitch, Worrell is almost playing right back these days. And it's just a real sort of asset to what we've got. So the one for me I'd like to avoid is Middlesbrough. Who would you guys like to play in the playoffs? And of course, comment if you can. Glenn, who do
I
you
know
want?
Paul would like Sheffield United, wouldn't he? They've got a tough game against Fulham, so it's whether they come back in. I'm just having a look at the league table here. You got 2 on 72, Sheffield United and Luton. Borough on 70, and like I said, Millwall on 69. They've got Bournemouth, so I think they're out of it. So it's between those three in 6th place. If we stay in 3rd, I've seen some of the comments. 3rd place, 6th at the 6th venue, and then 6th place, 3rd at the City Ground. If we finish 3rd, equally if we finish 4th, we play 5th away first, and then 4th at our place. And on the Monday, Tuesday night, isn't it, of the other week? I think at the moment, looking at the table, I don't mind who we play. I think we'll give Luton a good game, like you said. Sheffield United is a favourite of legacy, and obviously the situations that happened previously. Borough seem to be in the driving seat in terms of them having Preston, as opposed to Sheffield United having Fulham. Luton have got Reading, so it may well be Borough and Luton in 5th and 6th. With Sheffield United.
Sheffield United need a point, haven't they got the goal difference? I've not looked at it. You've got it up, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got the table here. I think Sheffield United have got +7 on Luton. Middlesbrough actually +5 on Luton. They're on 12 as opposed to 7. So if it ends up, Middlesbrough have to win. If Sheffield United and Luton draw, then it'll be 3 teams on 73. Sheffield United and Middlesbrough would have the better goal difference.
Interesting.
So, who knows? I think Luton will stay in 6th, and I would give I like you, Des. I think we'd give them a cracking game at home. I don't know whether it would be the same sort of close, tight game as it was against Luton over Easter. I don't think that can be helped by the fact that there's a close, tight pitch, and it doesn't really suit us, and it suits them down to the ground, doesn't it? Because they play on it 16, 18 times a year.
They play anti-football, don't they? So suits them there, but in Nottingham, we'll take them.
There was a comment there, and I kind of touched on that myself when I was talking about how confident I am. Could not care less. We're a good team. We play. Don't worry. There is a part of that to me. All these teams have done well this season. All of them are potential banana skins, as much as the fact we can beat all of them. But for me, there was something about that Luton game at the time which made me think we've got to get these and put them in the place. A lot of the flack I took today about referees was coming back from Luton fans. Because they, as much as they say we can't let it drop, they can't let that day drop either. So I'm not worried about who we get. Just like I say, for that, if you've got to pick someone, if someone's asking the question, if we could avoid Middlesbrough, I think there's a comment there.
We've not beaten Borough this season. We've lost to Borough twice, 2-0, haven't we?
It's not.
Does it worry you with them taking Spence back as well?
Yeah, it's not the fact that they beat us, because I think we're more than capable of beating them. I just think it's that dynamic we lose. I can't see the comment now. Oh, it's here. So the Bournemouth fan said, would you take fourth and play Luton, who will beat Reading, if it means avoiding Middlesbrough? I don't think we should be sort of trying to dictate how the table falls. But it's just that thing with Spence, because even if we don't play Middlesbrough in the semi-final, we could be without Spence for the final. And again, on that big pitch at Wembley, I think we take anybody to the cleaners. I really do. Now Bournemouth and Fulham, who the league table doesn't lie over so many games. They've been the best two teams. Forest the third, and I think we're a long way third now as well. We might not be up with those two teams. Last night proved it, although we've sort of gained ground on Fulham since earlier in the season. You win some, you lose some, but you'd say those two teams are the best teams, and then Forest are a long way third, in my opinion. And it boils down to some of the games recently. Sheffield United game, I thought we absolutely battered them that day.
Yeah.
And we were lucky to get a point. And there was a point where Cooper made a point of saying this club's not beat a team in the top six since, or for about 3 years. But it's happening now. We are getting results against top teams. And again, the big cup ties just prove that as well. Just a couple of comments. Evening all. Congrats on getting over 500 subscribers. Congrats, commiserations. I was hoping to get it after all, to be honest, Keith, but there you go. Ez says, I wouldn't change too much for Hull, and Cooper hasn't tinkered often. I would like to see Loria get a start just in case. Borough in the playoffs and Mighton and Lolly also get a start. And I'm glad Ez has mentioned Lolly there, because I've been saying for weeks now, Lolly's got a part to play. I was thinking, I looked at the clock last night at the ground. I looked up and it said 77 minutes. And I was still convinced Lolly was going to come on and score the winning goal. I wasn't worried. My mate next to me was a bit stressed out, going, "Oh, it's not going to happen." I was like, "It's going to happen. Come on, let's get Lolly on." And again, the playoffs just might give him that opportunity to do it. Yeah, there's one here. Huddersfield, fireworks from Evers would be class. That's who we stand red once. Ez says again, agree with Des. Let's hope 3 best teams actually go up the season. I think the stats actually sort of say that the 3 best teams do go up, don't they? Everybody seems to think it's that team who makes that late push into 6th place. But I think if you look back, the highest percentage across all 3 EFL leagues is actually promotion from 3rd place or from that 1st place beyond automatic. So, only Forest could be the team that... Well, not only Forest, but if Forest can get it wrong somehow, they can do. Let's just hope we go to Luton, we win 4-0, shut them up, and then win 4-0 at the City Ground. 8-0 on aggregate, that'd do for me. Orbital fan says the same as well.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth is back in. He's enjoying the show. Give him a shout out. I wouldn't say you were that far off, Des. You're a very good side. I'm sure you will win it. I'm going for Forest Huddersfield final. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think we are that far off, but the league table over 42 games, 45 games. Oh, 45 games says that Bournemouth have outperformed us, and that's unfortunately for us. The season didn't start when Steve Cooper come along. It did in many ways, but the league table didn't. So we got through lots there, guys. Really sort of appreciate you watching. How will you be staying in touch with the game on Saturday, Glenn?
I'm actually out in the morning on Saturday, so I'm going to be watching it on my phone when I can, and no doubt getting score updates. I'm not going to Hull. Are you?
I am, yeah.
Of course you are. Are you?
You'll see me. You'll see me somewhere.
Birthday suit sorted out, Des.
Birthday suit. I think it's probably a better suit than the one I'm going to be wearing.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to try and get up to one of those playoff games, and no doubt to Wembley when we get there. But I'm not going to be available to watch the game.
Are we going to win?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll win.
Yeah, and final point, I don't think we should worry too much about the playoffs in that respect. Who we get, I think most teams, based on, and it would be a real great impetus into the last. If we win and win well on Saturday, I think most teams wouldn't want necessarily to face us. I think that's the general consensus, and the way we finish the season would only add to that. We just need to be very savvy about who we select, I think, and it's a done deal, I hope.
So before we check out, I've got one more question for you guys, just to remind everybody to hit that like button. Please subscribe to DoreOnTour, to Do Daily. What I do is something different. Really, really appreciate all the support. And joking aside, actually, in a silly way, looking forward to the weekend and the full kit. But thanks to everybody for watching. I'm just going to ask the guys before we go, promotion, Glenn, is it still on?
It's still on. Of course it is. It's a minor blip, but we've still got another chance. We're going to take it this time.
Lee?
Of course it's still on. It's in our hands, I think, to be honest. If we can get Davies back, I don't think they'll be able to contain him. I don't think anyone will be able to deal with him. Not Borough, not anyone. And like I say, the comeback's greater than the setback. That's what we've got to remember, and we've just got to go for it. 100%. It's on us now.
Okay, I'm not quite sure of Dore's plans for DoreOnTour this week. Of course, he'll be back with a preview show ahead of the game on Saturday, if he can be bothered. If not, he'll just tell me I've got to do it. So please give the episode a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Glenn and Lee. It's been absolutely brilliant. I can't believe we've been on for over an hour. Thanks to all those people that have watched. Up the bloody Forest.
Come
Is
on.
that what he says?
You're it.